To this day. To this day.
Rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
What up, Bushido Spirit? Back with another review talking about Power Book 2. Now, I mentioned that I was going to go ahead and review this. I was going to talk about it and discuss it. I did make a prediction video, and for the most part, I pretty much guessed what was going to happen. The trailer pretty much told us the story, so I was able to predict, but there was a couple of things that was different. Overall, this first episode was not that bad. I'm not a huge fan of Tariq. The character, I'm not a huge fan of the character at all. But this episode was palatable. I did not hate him this first episode. And there wasn't anything uncommon to the series, uncommon to Power in this first episode. It felt like a Power episode. Same intro and everything. It makes sense. The pacing was a bit fast, I guess remnants from the last season, but it made sense here. It kind of worked because Tariq is in a hurry. He's rushing around the college campus. He's trying to concoct plans to free his mother. So there was a sense of urgency throughout the episode, and I felt like the pacing matched that. That's why it didn't bother me as much. But if it continues that way, then it'll be an issue. But I think it worked here. It was like a reflection of Tariq's everyday life. With all that being said, Power Book 2, Season 1, Episode 1, The Stranger. The Stranger is the name of a book Tariq has to read to be accepted into canonical studies courses. The protagonist of that story murders someone, and Tariq is a murderer, so they have something in common. Both made the decision to kill and are willing to live with the consequences, but unlike the character in the story, Tariq's mother is taking responsibility for his actions. Tariq tries to correct this, but fails by episode end. We'll discuss more of that later. This review will be broken up into two parts: school life and court drama. Starting off with the court drama. Before I continue, be sure to like, comment, and sub to the channel. I'll see if I can continue these reviews. People are fans of Power on this channel, so I'll try to do these spin-off shows. And hopefully they are solid. They don't completely make me angry. Anyway, let's get right to it. So Tamika is hired as Tasha's lawyer. Tamika does a pretty good job arguing Tasha's case. The plan is to have Tasha admit to murdering Ghost, but to say it was because of self-defense. Ghost is this wild drug-dealing murderer, and I had to kill him to protect myself and my family. And if they play their cards right, this should give her a shorter sentence or no sentence at all, 5 years probation. All Tasha has to do is tell the truth, or to tell enough of the truth that it's believable. However, parts of Tasha's story doesn't check out. Too many unanswered questions. Quentin's testimony is strong. Quentin's the guy she tries to frame for the murder of Ghost. Now, Tamika is aware Tasha was not alone at the club. She's obviously protecting someone. Tamika points out that if she wants to be truly free, she has to expose the other party. But we all know she won't do that because that other person is Tariq. Tamika kind of figures this out as well. And as soon as she mentions his name, Tasha fires her immediately. As soon as she says "tuh," like her ass is fired. We know how Tasha feels about Tariq. That's her baby. She protects him at all costs. Tamika calls Tariq and suggests he gets another lawyer for his mother, one that doesn't need the truth to win. In comes McLean, played by Method Man. He is extremely good at getting criminals acquitted. However, he refuses to take the St. Patrick's case unless he gets $500K up front. Tariq is even more pressed to get that money after finding out things have gotten worse for his mother. Forensics just came back. The shooter's height was somewhere between 5'11 and 6'2, so Tasha's story doesn't check out. She couldn't have been the murderer, and definitely not because of self-defense. There is obviously an accomplice. Her new charges are conspiracy 1, aiding and abetting, plus gun charges. She's looking at a minimum of 15 years, only if she reveals the shooter. Tasha tells prosecutor Jenny Coleman did it. Later on, we'll discover that that's another dead end. So it's back to slanging rocks for Tariq. So in order to get funds, Tariq meets up with his mother's former assistant, Epiphany. He uses her to sell product at the club, like his mother did. And you're probably wondering, how the hell is Tariq getting product? Who is his connect? Well, he meets up with an old friend an old friend from high school, the same friend that double-crossed him and sold him out. Effie, the girl he was getting fresh with, that couldn't afford books. She ends up giving him a small supply, free of charge, and she's able to get him $100K. But that $100K is still not enough for McClane. More on that later. Also this episode, we see that Sax is now a U.S. attorney. So this man continues to fail upward. Sax just continues to ball out. And his family is extremely proud of him. All except his brother, who knows how much of a fuck up he is. And doesn't want this whole thing to continue before it blows up in his face. So he suggests that Sax take a different job, because his failures will only dishonor the family. So we are already getting more development for Sax than what we got in all of Power. And I'm not happy about this. I don't give a fuck about Sax. I hate that nigga. But I mean, I guess this benefits the story. We'll see. And since we are on the topic of Sax, Sax visits Tamika to ask her about the case. He wants inside information. Instead, he ends up exposing himself. Tamika learns he may be a suspect. Tariq did see him at the club, and Tariq is blackmailing him, which is why he is so willing to help the St. Patrick's. Learning this information, Tamika tells him to get the fuck out, rightfully so. Cooper again may have got her involved in some bullshit. From there, Sax then goes to meet Jenny, the prosecutor of the case. Then he meets Tariq, and apparently he doesn't know that Tariq's the shooter, but he does know that it's not Andre Coleman, because we all know that Coleman was arrested that night, and there wasn't any blood on his clothing, so he couldn't have done the murder. So Tasha is caught up in another lie. Here we also learn that Tamika was put on the case by Sax to help out Tariq, but Tamika could no longer be Tasha's lawyer, so Tariq has no choice but to use McLean. And with only $100K, he cannot afford to have him as a lawyer. So he hops on Instagram Live and makes a public statement. He tells the world that McLean is helping out this unfortunate black family and that he's happy to have him as his mother's lawyer. This ploy, of course, forces McLean's hand, so he has to take the case to save face publicly. Him and Tariq end up meeting. Tariq tells McLean that when he speaks to his mother, tell her he said tell the truth. If she loves him, she needs to tell the truth, that he isn't afraid of the consequences. And this is going back to what I said earlier. He is willing to go to prison. He doesn't care about his future, doesn't care about fulfilling his father's wishes. He will go to prison forever if that means saving his mother. He did what he had to do. And that just shows you how much he loves Tasha and their relationship. Like, neither of them wants to budge. They are both trying to sacrifice themselves to save the other. The next morning at court, Tasha tells the judge she was afraid for her life. The real killer is Tommy Egan, which is kind of perfect because we know that Tommy was there and he probably has blood on his clothing because he held Ghost in his arms while he was dying. But it's a move Tariq wasn't even aware of. Tasha again makes a miscalculation. She fucks up the plan again. The first time she fucked it up was blaming Quentin, but now she fucked it up again by putting the murder on Tommy. But it wasn't just that in particular where her fuck up lies. It's what she said after that. When asked why would Tommy kill his friend Ghost, she tells the court she told him to do it. A perfect setup for Sax and the boys. Because a couple scenes ago we saw a member of the DNC, Stephen Ott, and John try to make her the head of Ghost Drug Enterprise to clean up James' image. The DNC doesn't want anybody to know that they were about to elect a murderer. And the original story that Tamika set out for her didn't benefit the DNC at all. They were trying to say that she murdered James out of self-defense because James was a murdering lunatic that threatened her life. But this new direction is perfect. Not only was she an accomplice, she ordered a hit. And that's only a move a kingpin can do. So Sax and company hit her with the kingpin charge immediately in court. The FBI is there to arrest her, and they may give her ass the needle. I'm not even gonna lie, I did not see this coming at all. I thought that we're gonna take a different direction. But it kind of makes sense, because Sax is Sax. He always betrays people. And Tasha confessing that somebody else did the crime removes him as a suspect. wiping away all leverage Tariq had, because Tariq was controlling Sax with the knowledge that he saw him at the nightclub with a gun. So when this scene first started, I thought that she was going to frame Sax as the murderer. And I think they wanted us to believe that on purpose. They kind of set it up to make us believe that. But she really just framed Tommy Egan, and she fucked up when she said that she told him to kill James. And Sax was ready for that play. He was ready for that play. Because if you look around the courtroom, the FBI was there on standby, and Cooper came to court with the DNC member Ott with the arrest warrant. McClane is blown away by this information. He questions his decision for taking the case, but Tariq convinces him to continue. There is a lot of publicity to be had. And that's pretty much it for the court side of things. And now on to the school life. And some of these things kind of cross over, so you'll hear me talk about some of the same things. But yeah, let's dive right into it. Back at Stanfield, we learned that in exchange for Tariq's admission to Stanfield, he's tasked with tutoring a student athlete named Ezekiel. And if Ezekiel doesn't pass, Tariq doesn't either. And if that wasn't enough on Tariq's plate, he decides to take a rigorous course called Canonical Studies to cut his 4 years of college down to 3. But in order to get into the course, he must take a verbal exam. Thus the title of this episode. The book he is reading is The Stranger. He has to do a verbal exam on that. He has to impress 3 professors, Reynolds, Simmons, and Milgram. His first attempt doesn't go so well, but Reynolds and Milgram see something in him. And that will probably be a reoccurring theme in this series. Tariq's infinite potential, his savvy, remnants of his father. It's the same thing they attempted to do in Power, to show how cunning he is, how intelligent he is. And at times it does seem forced, but I think they did an okay job here. I do appreciate the show for being realistic here. Because had Tariq finished that book and prepared talking points within 24 hours, that would have been a bit too extreme. I wouldn't have fucked with that at all. But he doesn't finish the book and fails. Lucky for him, they agreed to give him another shot, given his unfortunate circumstances. The second time around, he finally finishes the book and he passes. He gives them the verbal breakdown that they wanted. I won't go too far into detail because that's unnecessary, but just go ahead and watch the episode to see what that breakdown is and to learn the parallels between Tariq and the character in that story. Some other things to note is that Braden, the guy from his former high school, is currently at his new school, Stansfield, and he'll most likely do what he did at the high school, help Tariq sell drugs around campus to make enough money to pay for that lawyer. Him meeting Braden is how he was able to make contact with Effie again. Because if you remember, all those 3 were working together before he was sold out. And lastly, we get to meet Ezekiel, the student athlete that he must help. And the only reason that Ezekiel is important is because of his family. He takes Tariq to a family gathering, and we get to meet Mary J's character for the first time. At Ezekiel's congratulations party, a member of his family sleeps with a guest girlfriend. The guy comes back with the strap. Later this episode, that guy gets shot. This, of course, is to show us, the audience, that Ezekiel's family isn't ordinary. And the current head of the family, Mary J's character, is grimy as fuck. She is not to be messed with. She is what they're trying to make Tasha out to be. She is, in fact, a kingpin. We see in this episode that she is pulling the strings. She is controlling all the members of her family, especially due to her husband's absence, who is put away on murder charges. But that is just the extent of what we know so far. They never mention anything about product. But I'm assuming that Tariq will have to go to her because he did show interest in the family. At the end of the episode, we see him looking up information on Lorenzo, her husband. So eventually he will get involved in that family, due to business or due to pleasure. He did show interest in one of Ezekiel's family members. I think his aunt. This nigga Tariq out here has a harem already. Effie's still trying to fuck with him. And this new girl, Lauren, from school is fucking with him as well. That is all interesting. We'll see how that works out. And that's pretty much the breakdown of this episode. Obviously, I may have skipped over some things. Be sure to correct me in the comment section below. But what are y'all overall feelings on this episode, on this spinoff series? Will you continue to watch? That is the big question. The series didn't offend me. It wasn't terrible to me. It's watchable, but I don't know if I like it yet. I don't know if I'll continue. But if y'all fuck with it, I might continue just off of that. We'll see. I'm your boy Bushido Spirit. Peace the fuck out.